Welcome back. Let's talk about the foot. We've talked about the hip, we've talked about the femur, we've talked about a little bit about the knee, we've talked about bones of the lower leg, and now it is time to talk about the final set of bones, the foot. So, what we're looking at right here is a medial view of the foot. There's a posterior view, there's a lateral view, there's an anterior view. Here is an inferior view. And here is a superior view. Now let's come back to this view. This is my medial view. A couple of neat things to notice about the architecture. We've got a lot of very distinctly shaped bones. And just like the hand, we have the forearm with the radius and the ulna. And then I've got a set of 8 carpal bones. And then I've got metacarpals. And then I've got phalanges. With the foot, I've got something very similar in the fact that I've got a tibia and a fibula. And then I've got 7 tarsal bones. And then I've got 5 metatarsals. And then again, like the hand, I've got 14 phalanges. So let's just break these down. What's important about these bones is their shape gives rise to their function. And we kind of know just innately because we have feet that they're shock absorbers. And we're going to talk specifically about that in another lecture. But for right now, when you push all these bones together, from the tips of the toes all the way to the heel, if you push these together, they'll form an arch. And that arch gives rise to a lot of those abilities to absorb impact. So as that foot gets compressed, that arch flattens out. And then it can return back to a fully arched structure. Now, that's not just with the bones give rise to the arch, but the muscles which underlie it, let's say we have a muscle that attaches somewhere distally, and it goes and runs up to the lower leg. When that is pulled tight or it's concentrically contracted, then this bone is going to get pushed into this bone, which get pushed into this bone, and so forth and so on. Again, giving us that arch support. Now, let's talk about the individual bones. This is my tibia. Not a bone of the foot, but just a frame of reference. This big heel bone is called the calcaneus. Above it is the talus. Right in front of the talus is the navicular, and in front of the navicular is the first cuneiform. That gives me the medial aspect or the medial sided tarsal bones. Then these are my metatarsals. And again, just like in the hand, if it's on the big toe side, which this is on the medial side, instead of the pollicis being for thumb, the hallucis is the Latin name for big toe. So if it's the big toe, it's going to be my first metatarsal. Hence, I also have the name first cuneiform. And then I have my phalanges. And they're named under the same naming convention as your hand. Proximal, phalanx of the first distal phalanx of the first. Now, let's look at the other side. Now, when we look at this laterally, again, I can see my calcaneus. I can see my talus. And now I have another bone here. This is my cuboid. And I can see a bone here and a bone here, and then the remnant of a bone way over here. Well, the one way over here from the other side is my first cuneiform, which means that this one is my second cuneiform, and this would be my third cuneiform. That makes up all of my tarsal bones. That would be my navicular. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The lateral view gives me the view of all the tarsal bones. And again, moving forward, metatarsals, with this being the 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and hidden way over here is the 1st, and then the phalanges. And there are 14 of those. So let's look at it from underneath and see if we can identify all the bones. What's this one? That's right. It's the calcaneus. And what about this one? The navicular. What's this one, and this one? That is my first, second, and third cuneiforms. Leaving this one, which is my talus, and this one, which is, cuboid. First metatarsal, second metatarsal, third metatarsal, fourth metatarsal, fifth metatarsal, and then my phalanges. A little bit easier than our wrist. Now let's talk a little bit about the names of the joints. We're not going to cover a lot of the joint names. We're just going to come back and talk about the ones that we already have a familiarity with, just like we do from the hand. So this is the first ray, right? So this whole thing would be the hallucis, or the big toe. These are metatarsals. This is my proximal phalanx. This is my distal phalanx. This is my proximal phalanx, my middle phalanx, and then my distal phalanx. And there's my metatarsal. That means that this joint is a combination of my metatarsal plus my phalanx, which means metatarsobophalangeal joint. And just like in the thumb, this is just a relationship between the proximal and distal phalanx. So it's called the interphalangeal joint. Now, when I have multiple bones in here, I have my metatarsal phalangeal joint there. Then I have a proximal interphalangeal and a distal interphalangeal, DIP, and you can recall that from the hand, PIP. There are some important ligamentous structures here. So some important ligaments. The most common ligament in the ankle, the one that you've probably heard of, the one that's injured most often, is called the ATFL. So the A stands for anterior, T stands for talo, F stands for fibular, and L stands for ligament. So anterior talofibular ligament. So anterior on the foot, running from the fib to the talus. So what would a structure like this do? Well, it would prevent this foot from sliding out of the joint, of the mortise joint. And so, kind of like a sock drawer can pull out of a drawer. We wouldn't want our foot to do that. Because if the foot slid forward like that, like a sock drawer coming out of a chest of drawers, then the ankle would no longer function. And so that's what the ATFL does, is it prevents that talus from sliding anteriorly out of the mortise joint. The next important one is the PTFL. And just like the ATFL, PTFL, posterior talofibular ligament. And it prevents the foot from sliding posteriorly, like pushing a sock drawer all the way in. Another important ligament, because there's 4 total, is called the CFL. And the CFL stands for calcaneofibular ligament. And what that does is that prevents that foot from rolling Because if it was rolling like that, it would come apart right there. And then the final group of ligaments that we have in the ankle are on the medial side. And this can be defined as a distinct, each individual ligament can be formed kind of distinctly named, but we're just going to learn them as they are as a whole. There's a group of ligaments that form a triangular shape, and they're all on this medial aspect. And they're grouped together to be called the deltoid ligament. And there are specific ligaments in there, but for what we need to know, we're going to call it the deltoid ligament. So, how many ligaments do I have that provide the main support for the ankle joint? I have 4 ligaments. I have number 1, the ATFL, number 2, PTFL, number 3, CFL, and number 4, deltoid. So you may ask, if they're ligaments of the ankle, are there specific ligaments of the foot? Yes, there are hundreds of ligaments in the foot, but we're only going to be concerned with one. So we'll put the bottom of the foot in view. We can get it there. Sorry, make you nauseous. Here we go. All right, let's orient ourselves really quickly, just so we know. Calcaneus, cuboid, first, second, third, cuneiforms, navicular, talus. Now, remember earlier when we said that the foot formed an arch? Well, we have a ligament that actually helps hold that arch up. And it's a really long name, calcaneo navicular ligament. What makes this very important is it's located on the bottom side of the foot. So that means that we need to learn the names of the positions of the foot. The top side is called dorsal, kind of like when you're swimming at the beach. And a shark comes by with a dorsal fin. That's the top part of your foot. And the bottom part is the plantar. Like when you step on a bug, you're planting your foot down. So the full name of this ligament is the plantar calcaneo navicular ligament. And it also has kind of a lay term name. It's called the spring ligament. So when the foot flattens, that ligament allows the foot to come back to its normal position. And that is everything we need to know about the bones of the foot.